Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really going to be unpacking something that I think touches on everyone's life in one way or another.
It absolutely does.
We're exploring the idea of personal control. How we manage the world around us, our homes, our spaces.
And also the world inside us.
Exactly. The urges, the habits. And we're looking at two areas that seem, well, completely different on the surface.
That's right. On one hand, you have the very structured, almost methodical process of keeping a home completely spotless.
And on the other.
The intense, internal, and often overwhelming battle of breaking a major addictive habit like smoking.
And our mission today is to really analyze the systems behind both.
We want to show you how the strategies you'd use to turn, say, a chaotic house into a place of order.
Those exact same principles.
They're the framework you need to overcome an addiction and, secure your own long-term well-being. We're going to try to express these ideas as clearly as we can.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with the home.
The external world.
Right. Before you can fix a problem, you have to define it. And the material we looked at uses this brilliant phrase, such a mess.
I love that phrase because it's so descriptive.
It is. It's not just, a bit of dust on a shelf. It paints a picture of systemic failure, total disorganization.
It's when things are just everywhere. Shoes on the desk, papers covering the table. There's no logic to it.
And that phrase, such a mess, it really points to a cognitive burden, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. When your environment is in a state of chaos, your brain has to constantly process that disorder. It's like a low-grade distraction that's always running in the background.
Chipping away at your focus.
Exactly. It drains your ability to make good decisions. You're starting your day already in a state of decision fatigue.
So the way to fight back against this mess is through, well, chores.
The necessary evils of daily life.
Right. We all know what they are. Doing the laundry, taking out the garbage, wiping down the kitchen counter. They're repetitive, they're mundane, but they are essential for things to function.
And the very first action, the first step out of that chaos is to tidy up.
And there's a key distinction here, isn't there, between tidying up and, say, deep cleaning.
A huge one. Tidying up is the immediate, low-friction action. It's just putting things back where they belong, organizing things a little bit.
Restoring basic order.
Precisely. You're not scrubbing the floors yet. You're just making sure everything has a home, and it's, in that home, it's the first move toward regaining control.
And if tidying up is that first step, then the ultimate goal, the pinnacle of all this effort is to get your space to be spotless.
Spotless. It means perfectly clean, not a single speck of dirt.
It's an absolute state.
It is. And a strong synonym for it is immaculate, which implies not just cleanliness, but a kind of purity, perfection.
And you can't get to immaculate with just one big weekend effort.
No, that's the key. It requires a disciplined, consistent system. And that's why it's such a good model for habit formation in general.
So here's where it gets really interesting for me. Why should we even care? Why invest all this energy to get to that spotless state? We know it feels good, but what's really going on underneath?
Well, the first and probably most critical reason is health. Plain and simple.
We're not just talking about appearances.
Not at all. We're talking about actively removing biological hazards from your living space. When you sweep, when you mop, when you wipe down surfaces, you're eliminating dust mites, harmful bacteria, viruses.
Things you can't even see.
Exactly. These are the things that can trigger or worsen serious health problems. We're talking about chronic allergies, asthma, all sorts of infectious illnesses. A clean home is literally a first line of defense against getting sick.
So it's not just cleaning, it's sanitation.
That's a great way to put it. You're disrupting the life cycle of pathogens. You're actively making your environment safer on a microbial level.
And then there's the second piece, which is the psychological side, the mental well-being.
And this is just as important. That cognitive burden we mentioned before, the mess, it translates directly into stress and anxiety.
You feel out of control.
Yes. Your brain is constantly being reminded of all these unfinished tasks. It creates this background hum of guilt and worry.
But the reverse of that is the reward, isn't it?
Absolutely. A clean, tidy space is inherently calming. Psychologists talk about how it restores your executive function.
Meaning your ability to think clearly.
Precisely. When your environment is in order, your mind feels more ordered. It allows you to relax. The physical act of cleaning and then maintaining that order gives you this profound sense of control and peace. And in a world that so often feels chaotic, that feeling is invaluable.
Okay, so that's health and mental well-being. What about the purely practical benefits?
While the big one is efficiency. Organization saves you a huge amount of time and, let's be honest, frustration.
The frantic search for the car keys?
Or that important document, or your wallet. When everything has its proper place, you eliminate that organizational drag. The time you save not searching for misplaced items, it really adds up. You can redirect that energy to something more productive.
And the safety aspect is something I think people really underestimate.
Until someone trips and falls, yes. A cluttered home is a dangerous home. It's as simple as that.
Toys on the floor, shoes by the stairs.
Piles of laundry, these are all physical hazards. Keeping pathways clear is absolutely vital for preventing accidents, especially if you have young children or elderly family members living with you.
And the final piece is the social one. Hospitality and respect.
Right. A clean home is a reflection of self-respect. It sends a message that you care about your surroundings, and by extension, you care about yourself.
And how you make other people feel.
Exactly. When you invite guests into a spotless, immaculate space, they feel welcome, they feel comfortable and respected. It makes the whole social interaction smoother. A messy house can, even if you don't mean it to, create a barrier. It might discourage people from visiting.
So we know why it's important. But how do you get there? The insight from our material is that it's not about working harder, it's about having a smarter strategy.
Yes, it outlines a very clear 7-step system, and it's designed specifically to minimize that feeling of being overwhelmed and to maximize your chances of success.
So let's dive into that system. Step 1 is make a plan. Why is this so much more than just, making a to-do list?
Because a good plan is designed to fight what we call initiation paralysis.
That feeling of looking at a huge mess and just freezing, not knowing where to even begin.
Exactly. So the plan starts with a list, yes, but the crucial part is breaking big, vague tasks into small, specific, actionable steps.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of writing, clean the kitchen, which is huge and daunting, you write, wash and dry all dishes. Then, wipe counters with disinfectant. Then, sweep the floor.
So each one is a small, achievable win.
Precisely. You get these immediate micro-victories, which builds momentum and makes it so much easier to just start.
Okay, that makes sense. So step 2, gather tools. This seems almost too simple.
It sounds simple, but it's a brilliant strategy for maintaining focus. Before you start cleaning, you gather every single thing you will need.
The broom, the mop, the detergents, trash bags, all of it.
All of it, in one place. The reason is that if you have to start mid-task to go find the glass cleaner, you break your concentration, you introduce friction. It's an excuse for your brain to wander off and procrastinate.
Having everything ready means you can stay in the flow.
Yes, you just move from one task to the next seamlessly.
All right, step 3 is about focus, one room at a time.
This is all about visible progress and the psychological reward that comes with it. By forcing yourself to finish one area completely, say, the bathroom, before you even think about the next, you get to see a complete transformation.
And that transformation is motivating.
It's powerful, positive reinforcement. It makes you want to tackle the next room. And starting with the high-need areas, like the kitchen or the bathroom, gives you the biggest, most satisfying reward right at the beginning.
Step 4 feels almost scientific, top to bottom.
It's pure physics, really. It's about optimizing your physical labor. When you're cleaning, dust and dirt will naturally fall downwards because of gravity.
So if you clean the floor first and then dust the shelves.
You have to clean the floor again. It's frustrating and inefficient. The top-to-bottom rule says you always clean the highest surfaces first. Shelves, windows, furniture. Let all the dirt fall. Then, as your very last step, you clean the floor.
One time.
Just once.
Yeah.
Maximum efficiency, no rework.
I like it. Okay, step 5 gets to the root cause of the mess. Decluttering.
This is maybe the most important step for long-term success. Decluttering is the proactive removal of future chaos.
So it's not just organizing, it's getting rid of stuff.
Yes, you have to be systematic. Old papers, broken things, clothes you haven't worn in years. All these items create visual noise and contribute to that such a mess feeling.
But you have to actually decide what to do with it.
That's the key. You decide its fate. Donate, recycle, or trash. You don't just move it from one closet to another, you get it out of the house. This makes maintaining cleanliness so much easier later on.
Which brings us to step 6, the cornerstone of it all. Consistency is key.
This is what turns a massive project into a simple routine. You have to set a schedule to maintain the work you've just done.
And that schedule has different levels, right?
It does. You have your daily tasks, making the bed, washing dishes right after you use them. These are small things that keep the baseline of tidiness.
And then your bigger weekly tasks.
Right. Mopping the floors, deep cleaning the bathroom. By making this a consistent schedule, it stops being a chore you have to think about and just becomes an automatic, low-effort habit. That's how you prevent slipping back into chaos.
And finally, step 7, which is about teamwork. The shared effort.
This is so important. If you live with other people, cleaning should not be one person's job.
It creates resentment, and it's just not fair.
It's not. The key here is specific delegation. Don't just say, hey, can you help me clean? That's too vague.
You have to be specific.
You say, you are responsible for taking out the garbage and cleaning the bathroom every Saturday. I will handle the kitchen and the laundry. Giving everyone a clear, tangible task creates accountability. It reinforces the idea that this peaceful, clean environment is a shared responsibility.
It's a really comprehensive system. It's not just about cleaning, it's about changing your entire mindset around your living space. Now, this whole system of managing our environment, it requires communication. So let's take a quick look at the language people use when they're negotiating these daily tasks.
Especially the language of avoidance.
Right. So if you want to say, I'm busy, a more, fluent and less confrontational way to say that is, I'm in the middle of something right now.
It's polite, it acknowledges the request, but sets a temporary boundary.
And if you're promising to help soon, you don't usually say, I will be there in 60 seconds.
No, you'd say, I'll be there in a second. Or even shorter, just a sec. These are common phrases that signal immediate intent, even if it's not literally 1 second. They smooth over that little bit of domestic friction.
On the other side, when you want to ask for help or suggest dividing up the work, the way you phrase it is really important.
It is. The phrase, why don't you, is incredibly useful. It frames a request as a suggestion, not a command.
So it feels more collaborative.
Exactly. Instead of clean the floors, you say, why don't you clean the floors? I'll go to the supermarket. It becomes a negotiation.
And all this talk about sharing chores brings up a brief cultural point that was mentioned.
The idea of the house husband.
Right. It highlights this modern shift, particularly in North America, toward a more equal division of household labor.
It's a big move away from older, more traditional gender roles. It really reinforces that 7th step of the cleaning system, the shared effort. It's a recognition that maintaining a spotless home is a dual responsibility. And now, we're going to pivot. We're going to take everything we've learned about systems, willpower, and consistency in our external world
And apply it to the intense internal struggle of addiction.
We're shifting from managing a physical mess to managing a chemical dependence, specifically smoking. The act itself is simple. You burn a substance, usually tobacco, and you inhale the smoke.
But the mechanism of control is incredibly complex, and it all centers on one chemical: nicotine.
Nicotine is a very potent psychoactive drug. When you inhale it, it travels to your brain almost instantly.
And what does it do there?
It essentially mimics one of your natural neurotransmitters, and it triggers a release of several chemicals, but the most important one is dopamine.
The feel-good chemical.
Right. You get this brief flood of dopamine that makes you feel calm, relaxed, maybe even happy. But, and this is the trap, that feeling is incredibly short-lived. The nicotine metabolizes very quickly.
And then your brain wants more.
Instantly. Your brain wants to get back to that heightened dopamine level, and that creates the craving. That is the addictive cycle.
So when we talk about how people smoke, it's not just about the standard cigarette anymore, is it?
Not at all. The cigarette-dried tobacco rolled in paper is the most common method, of course. But you also have cigars,
Which are bigger, thicker.
and often seen as sort of a luxury item, smoked on special occasions. But that perception doesn't make them any safer.
And then there are the more social methods.
Like pipes, which is an older way of smoking loose tobacco, and then hookahs, or shishas.
Water pipes.
Right. Very
Yeah.
common in group settings. They use flavored tobacco, and the smoke passes through water before you inhale it. There's a dangerous misconception that because the smoke is cooled or flavored, it's somehow safer.
Which isn't true.
Not at all. The volume of smoke you inhale from a hookah session can be just as harmful, if not more so, than smoking cigarettes.
And then we have the modern version. E-cigarettes or vapes.
Vaping is different. It doesn't burn anything. It heats a liquid that contains nicotine and other chemicals into a vapor or an aerosol that you inhale.
And a lot of people think they're a safe alternative.
That is the common belief, but it's a false sense of security. While you avoid the tar from combustion, you are still inhaling highly addictive nicotine, often in very high concentrations, along with other potentially harmful chemicals.
So it's not risk-free.
Far from it. Especially for young people who might start vaping thinking it's harmless and then find themselves with a powerful nicotine addiction.
And we have to stress that this habit doesn't just affect the person smoking. Let's talk about secondhand smoke.
This is so critical. When someone smokes, the smoke they produce affects everyone around them. It's called passive smoking or secondhand smoke.
And that smoke is just as dangerous.
It contains hundreds of toxic chemicals, and it's especially dangerous for vulnerable people. For children, it can trigger asthma and respiratory infections. For pregnant women, it poses risks to the fetus. It is a shared environmental health problem.
So when someone decides they want to break this addiction, they're faced with a choice between two very different strategies. The first is a more gradual approach.
That's called cutting down. This is a strategy of slow, deliberate reduction. So you might go from smoking 10 cigarettes a day down to 5, then down to 2.
You're trying to ease your body off the nicotine.
Exactly. You're trying to manage the withdrawal symptoms by lowering your dependence slowly. We see this with other habits too, like cutting down on sugar or salt.
And then there's the other way, the all-or-nothing high-stakes approach,
That's going cold turkey.
which means you just stop.
Abruptly, completely, and forever. 0 cigarettes from one moment to the next. This is often seen as the hardest way to quit because your body is thrown into immediate, full-blown nicotine withdrawal. The cravings are incredibly intense.
So it requires a massive amount of willpower.
An enormous, sustained burst of it. The risk of relapsing quickly is very high.
And this brings us right to that core conflict, doesn't it? The internal battle between willpower and the urge.
It really does. And we have to think of willpower not as some fixed personality trait, but as a finite resource.
Like a battery that can run down.
That's a perfect analogy. Willpower is your mental strength to follow through on a decision, the decision not to light up. But if you're stressed, tired, or in a chaotic environment, that willpower battery gets drained and your resistance gets weaker.
And the urge is the enemy you're fighting.
The urge is that powerful, almost physical impulse that's driving you to seek the immediate reward of the nicotine.
And when you deny that urge,
You experience nicotine withdrawal. That's the feeling of discomfort, the irritability, the stress, the headaches, the intense craving. The entire quitting strategy, whether it's cutting down or going cold turkey, is designed to help you survive that urge long enough for your brain to rewire itself. This all raises a really important question, though. Given how hard it is to quit and how bad it is for you, why do people even start in the first place?
right, we have to look at the pressures that push people toward that first cigarette. Let's start with the environment they grow up in.
Exposure is a huge factor. If you grow up in a house where your parents or older siblings smoke, the act just becomes normalized.
It's not seen as a dangerous thing, it's just what people do.
Exactly. It's part of the daily routine, like making coffee. That early acceptance dramatically lowers the barrier to trying it yourself later on.
And then during the teenage years, the power of your friends can be overwhelming.
Peer pressure. It's a cliche for a reason. If your social circle smokes, the desire to fit in, to not feel left out, can be incredibly strong.
So it might not even be about enjoying it at first.
Often it isn't. It's about social inclusion. You start by taking a cigarette to be part of the group, and before you know it, it's become a regular habit.
We also can't ignore the historical role of media and advertising.
Absolutely. For decades, movies and ads deliberately connected smoking with being sophisticated, confident, and powerful.
The cool movie star with a cigarette.
Right. That created this strong aspirational link. Even today, seeing attractive characters smoking on screen can subtly reinforce the idea that it's a sign of maturity or success, which is very appealing to young people.
Okay, let's shift to the psychological reasons. One of the biggest is the belief that it helps with stress.
This is one of the most powerful and most misleading drivers. The dopamine hit from nicotine feels like stress relief.
But it's an illusion.
It is. What you're actually relieving is the stress of nicotine withdrawal from the last cigarette wearing off. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. Smoking causes the stress that the next cigarette then temporarily relieves.
And for teenagers, there's often an element of defiance.
Yes, rebellion. Smoking can be a way to assert independence, to break the rules, to show that you're in control of your own choices.
But the irony is that this act of rebellion leads to a loss of control.
It's a tragic irony. You start smoking to prove your autonomy, and you end up with a chemical dependency that severely limits it.
What about some of the more functional beliefs, like it helps you focus?
Many people start out of simple curiosity, just wondering what it's like. Beyond that, yes, the belief that it aids concentration is common. Students or workers feel it gives them a mental break that helps them focus.
And there's some truth to the routine of taking a break, but not the nicotine itself.
Right. The nicotine gives you a temporary spike followed by a crash. And then there's the belief about weight.
That smoking helps with weight loss.
Yes, the idea that it suppresses your appetite. And while nicotine can affect metabolism, it's an incredibly unhealthy trade-off. The systemic damage from smoking is a terrible price to pay for a minor effect on your appetite.
Finally, in some places, there are strong cultural ties.
That's right. In some communities, smoking might be part of social traditions or a way of showing hospitality. In that context, it's seen as a social ritual, not a health risk, which can make it very hard for individuals to break away from the norm.
So we see all the reasons people start, but let's talk about the long-term cost. That temporary feeling of calm comes at a massive price across every area of your life. Let's start with the physical toll, the health deterioration.
The damage starts immediately. The lungs, obviously, are hit first. This leads to chronic coughing, shortness of breath. It puts you at a huge risk for diseases like emphysema and lung cancer. We're talking about irreversible damage.
And it doesn't stop with the lungs.
Not at all. The heart is also severely affected. The chemicals damage your blood vessels, which raises your blood pressure and forces your heart to work harder. This dramatically increases the risk of a heart attack or a stroke.
And you can actually see the effects on the outside, too, on the skin.
Yes. Smoking massively accelerates the aging process. It reduces oxygen flow to the skin, which breaks down collagen. This leads directly to premature wrinkles and a dull, dry complexion.
And what about the body's ability to defend itself, the immune system?
It's fundamentally compromised. The immune system is weakened, so smokers get sick more often. And when they do get sick, or if they get injured, they heal more slowly because their circulation and cellular repair mechanisms are impaired.
Beyond the staggering health costs, there's the financial drain.
It is an absolute financial sinkhole. The material gave the example of paying $10 to $12 for a pack in a city like Chicago.
So a pack a day is thousands of dollars a year.
Over $4,000 a year. Imagine that money invested over 10 or 20 years.
Yeah.
It's a fortune that could have been used for a down payment on a house, for education, for retirement. It's a punishing financial penalty.
And then there's the social and environmental cost.
Socially, the lingering smell of smoke can be a real deterrent. People may avoid you, leading to a kind of social isolation. And laws are increasingly limiting where you can smoke, which restricts your social life even further.
They're cracking down.
Exactly. And environmentally, cigarette butts are the single most littered item on the planet. They pollute our water, and they can start devastating forest fires. And that phrase you just used, cracking down, is important. Governments are getting much more aggressive in trying to regulate this.
So explain what that means. What does cracking down imply?
It means an authority is becoming much stricter and more systematic in stopping a harmful activity. For smoking, it means things like banning it in all public places, restaurants, bars, parks. It's about making the behavior difficult and socially unacceptable.
We see it with other things too, like drunk driving.
Yes, or illegal drugs. The goal is to make it so inconvenient and so costly that people are forced to change their behavior.
And yet, even with all these efforts, the material pointed out something fascinating about those graphic warning labels on cigarette packs.
This is a great example of where a logical policy can fail. The idea was that showing a picture of a diseased lung would shock people into quitting.
But it doesn't always work.
Often, it's completely ineffective. Smokers become desensitized to the images. Some even said they would choose which pack to buy based on the picture, like they were collectibles.
That's incredible.
It just shows that once an addiction is fully established, rational fear often isn't enough to overcome the chemical urge.
But there is good news. The rewards for quitting are immense, and they start right away. It's like the ultimate internal tidy-up, connecting right back to that spotless house we talked about.
The body's ability to heal is remarkable. The recovery begins almost immediately. Within just a few hours, your heart rate and blood pressure start to drop.
And you can feel the difference quickly.
You can. The immediate improvements include much easier breathing and a noticeable increase in your energy levels. Your circulation improves.
And your senses come back.
Right. Yes, your senses of taste and smell, which are dulled by smoking, improve very quickly. Food tastes better. Life is just, more vibrant.
But achieving this, whether you go cold turkey or cut down slowly, it requires a huge amount of determination.
It does, but that determination can be supported by helpful tools. Things like the nicotine patch or nicotine gum can help manage the withdrawal symptoms. Counseling can provide essential psychological support.
The goal is always possible.
It's always possible. Every single day without a cigarette is a win. It's a profound step toward a longer, healthier, and much wealthier future.
So we've taken a deep dive today into the discipline of daily life. We've compared that structured 7-step system for keeping a house spotless to the immense willpower needed to manage an internal habit like addiction.
And what's so fascinating is that both processes really demand the same things: consistency, planning, and the strength to resist that powerful urge.
Whether it's the urge to leave your jacket on the chair or the urge to reach for a cigarette.
Exactly. Both external order and internal health depend on these fundamental principles of self-governance. The deliberate daily actions are what create real long-term change.
We established early on that a clean house makes you feel calm and happy. So we want to leave you, our listener, with one final provocative thought to mull over. We spent a lot of time detailing that 7-step cleaning strategy. Make a plan, gather tools, one room at a time, top to bottom, declutter, set a schedule, and involve everyone. How can proactively applying those same high-leverage steps to other areas of your life, like getting your finances in order, managing a huge project at work, or even conquering chronic stress, how could that bring you that same powerful, tangible sense of control and spotless peace? Think about how those deliberate, small, systematic actions can transform your entire bigger picture.